Trainers. Which one of these colors is Quillfish labeled as in the Pokédex? Okay, trainer, if you chose any of these colors, you're a belligerent, bumbling buffoon. I might swerve in that corner, whoa, whoa. The answer is actually gray, despite Quillfish not actually having any gray on it. Its top side is bluish green, its bottom side is yellowish green, its lips are pink, its eye is white, with the center of it being black if that even counts. So how could it possibly be gray?
Well, actually, the shadows of Quillfish gives off a grayish hue.
Nice that, Bucky.
And no, this isn't talking about Hisuian Quillfish, as that variant is labeled as being black, which I can agree with. But there are more than just Quillfish who has this problem, so I wanted to share with you guys some Pokemon that I think were labeled the wrong colors. Now, before I start, I want to go over the factors that will decide which Pokemon may or may not be included for this video. First, I want to start by saying that there are 10 different colors in Pokemon, those being red, blue, yellow, green, black, brown, purple, gray, white, and pink. These are colors chosen by Pokemon themselves, not by me. So don't attack me for there not being any orange or turquoise. Pokemon that are naturally some unmentioned colors normally get placed into the most similar color bracket. So for example, Charizard and Dragonite are both orange in color, yet one is categorized as being red while the other is brown. I won't be intervening in cases like these much unless I feel like it's absolutely necessary. Another instance I won't talk much about is when Pokemon have split colors, such as Druddigon, who has a red head and blue body, and gets labeled as red despite being more blue. It's just too much work to cherry pick every single Mons, so I will only talk about the more notable ones that have a large imbalance in colors. Alright, hopefully all that makes sense. We'll start with smaller mistakes first and look at progressively worse ones as the video goes on. The first tier we'll look at is questionable. These are Pokemon who are placed in the wrong color categories, although it is due to some reasoning. The first one I'll look at is the entire Abra evolution line. This is mainly going to be an example so you guys get the gist of what the video is about. If you come across any of these Pokemon or are asked what color these Pokemon are, you would definitely say yellow. But unfortunately, due to their brown chest plate that they all wear, it's enough for all three of them to get labeled as being brown. Ask any Gen 1er on the street, they'll definitely tell you it's yellow. Next, we got both Masquerain and Chimecho, both of which suffer the same problem, although this may just be me going senile and unable to perceive colors. Both of which, to people with masterful eyes such as myself, see white and a light gray coloring between them. Even when looking at scenes from the anime, I perceive white, but apparently this is actually deemed as being a very light blue. So Masquerain and Chimecho are considered blue Pokemon. Just know, no Pokemon from the Machop evolution line is considered to be blue. Now, with me being the all-seer of Pokemon, you can easily say that either the whole evolution line is blue, or Machoke isn't blue and purple instead. But all of that is wrong according to Pokemon. Instead, the whole line is classified as being gray, despite Masquerain and Chimecho being blue enough to not be gray. Just like my uploading schedule, there is no consistency when it comes to Pokemon colors. Now, this isn't the only time Pokemon has difficulties with the color blue. The following Pokemon has these problems as well. The Bronzer line, the Choodle line, and the Golett line. All of these Pokemons are undeniably blue, yet they get labeled as green. This would be placed later on in this video, but there is a reason for this mistake. Apparently in Japan, their perception of blue and green is different from those in English-speaking regions. So despite them being blue to us, they're not blue to them. So I'm not going to dig too hard at Pokemon for getting this one wrong. Or right in this case, I guess. I mean, I don't know, bruh. Alright, now let's look at Volcanion. Earlier on, I said orange's Pokemon who get split into red or brown categories won't be involved since orange doesn't exist. However, Volcanion is most definitely not in the slightest bit orange. Because of that, there is no reason for it to be in the brown category. It's very clearly red, with blue spots and yellow bone structures. I guess I don't really know what to call these parts.
Bruh.
This isn't the only time I feel brown was misused. I also think Hippowdon isn't brown. It looks basically the same color as the sand it's standing on, which is yellow. If you want to argue that I'm blind and that Hippowdon is indeed brown, I might have agreed and not put it on this list if it wasn't for the fact that female Hippowdon is also classified as being brown. And if you were wondering, Pokemon of the same species could be labeled into different color categories depending on their gender. Both Meowstic and Oinkologne has done it. If Hippowdon didn't want to look like a
Nimrod,
they could have just called it gray or black. The next set of Pokemon I want to look at is a group of Johto Pokemon in Misdreavus, Pineco, and Remoraid. Now, maybe it's because of the art style that was used back in the day that caused this mishap, but for some reason, all of them are labeled as being gray. By the way, this is the first 4 rows of gray Pokemon. The ones I mentioned and Quillfish all have more of a blue-like tint than that of gray. But for whatever reason, gray keeps getting mistaken as some type of purple or dark blue according to Pokemon, even though those two color options already exist. The following Pokemon also gets labeled as being gray, despite not looking gray in a normal person's eye. Nosepass, who is clearly blue, Herdier, who is brown with a blue coat, and Whirlipede, who is most definitely purple. Anyways, those were the less major error for Pokemon colors. Let's look at the next level, the How tier. How did they get these following colors wrong? In this tier, there's little to no explanation to how Pokemon got their assigned colors. We'll start with Shuppet and Sneasel, who to me are dark blue and purple. Now, unlike the previously mentioned Pokemon who got mislabeled as gray, Sneasel and Shuppet do much worse as they skip the entire shade of gray and get labeled as being black. I'm not sure how we went from dark blue is equal to black, but this isn't going to be the last time that's mentioned in this video. Dusclops and Duskull are also labeled as being black, despite very clearly being one of the grayest Pokemon in the entire franchise. There's no way they got Dusclops as being black instead of gray, when there are more darker Pokemon than him that are also labeled as being gray. Now, one Pokemon that isn't black, but perhaps should have been, is the Vullaby evolution line. And no, they aren't labeled as gray or pink either. Apparently, their most important feature is their diapers, which makes them classified as being a brown Pokemon. But the Vullaby evolution line isn't as bad as the Shelmet evolution line, where for this line you only at max see 4 visible colors: pink, gray, green, and maybe even black. Yet, it's none of these colors. It's instead associated with red. Now, it's not one of a kind in the sense that it's the only pink Pokemon labeled as red. Medicham and Burmy Transform are also there. But it makes it worse that most of Shelmet and Excelgor coloring is of a non-pink color anyways, so I had to put it in the How tier. Now let's look at Fennekin and Braixen, the fire starters of Kalos. Both of them have an easy to see yellow fur coating, with Fennekin having even more yellow as it doesn't have any goofy black pants. However, despite all this, due to the tips of their tail and whatever nonsense that's coming out of their ears, both of them get classified as being red Pokemon. And the worst part of all this is that when you search up a red fox Pokemon on Google, the first 3 Pokemon shown are Vulpix, Nickit, and Zorua, none of which are classified as being red. Yet somehow Fennekin was able to pass the test despite looking similar to the Yellow Fox Ninetales. Next up is the Zorua line, and you're probably like me, who would classify it as being black, but instead it's considered to be gray. Not sure how Zorua is gray and Dusclops is black, but whatever. I was thinking of letting this one place earlier on, as gray and black do share some similarities, but the reason I kept it this high is because Zorua Hisuian form is also considered to be gray. There's no way you come to me with a straight face and tell me that these two are the same color. The contrast between them is almost equivalent to Zekrom and Reshiram. Speaking about legendaries, let's look at Dialga. This blue dragon with his blue gemstone and blue box art and blue typing surely must be blue. Or maybe it's gray typing and gray metallic vibes makes it gray. Neither. It's instead counted as being white. There's way too much blue on Dialga for this to happen, especially since this white isn't even white. But Dialga isn't the only Sinnoh Pokemon that has such an erroneous error. There's also the regional bird Starly and its evolution line. Its coating is kinda weird, giving off a white, gray, and black, but it's none of that, but instead brown, because of their beaks and feet, despite that being less than 20% of the entirety of the Pokemon. Other birds also have beak and feet, such as P-Dove and Pikipekline, but they don't get classified as the wrong color because of such a minuscule feature. But yet, even then, these Pokemons aren't even the worst of the worst as we head into the final tier, the randomizer tier. Pokemon in this tier have no correlation to their given color, and it's almost as if they were just chosen at random. For this tier, I got 4 specific Pokemons that I want to inspect. First of which is Pinurchin. The only visible colors on this thing is black, gray, and yellow. Even its biology describes it as having a black body. But somehow in the Pokédex, this
Kyukumuku rebrand
is labeled as being purple. Now, if you want to argue that Pinurchin is actually very dark purple and not actually black, I would say you are wrong, because Bulbapedia says it's not dark purple. A Pokemon that is deemed dark purple in biology, as well as classified as purple coloring despite not looking purple, is Grimmsnarl. You can see in its Bulbapedia entry that it's described as having a dark purple hair. It does not say Pinurchin has a dark purple body, even though to me they're both black, but Grimmsnarl gets a pass. Pinurchin, however, I don't know how they got it wrong. And similar to the earlier Shuppet and Sneasel, we are met with the fan favorite Snorlax, who just like the 2 mentioned Pokemon, is considered to be black. The huge difference between Snorlax and the other 2 is that it's not fully covered in a dark color. It has a giant white belly that rivals Santa himself. And to make it worse, Snorlax looks like it gets lighter and lighter in color with each generation, where it started as dark turquoise to just regular turquoise. Munchlax also suffered the same problem, But all I know about Snorlax is
This man isn't black!
Bruh.
alright, just 2 more Pokemon left to show you guys. I want you guys to try and guess what possible color they can be associated with. The first of 2 is Regidrago. It's not considered red or black, so what is it? Are its blue eyes enough to make it count as blue? Is the black actually dark gray like Zoroa? Or is the red some kind of purple or pink? The answer is none of the above. Regidrago is
Green.
Here comes the money.
Here we go. Money talk.
there's no smidgen of green anywhere on this Pokemon. And if you want to say that the black is actually very dark green, then you're just talking just to talk. But I think there's one Pokemon who was classified even worse. I bring you guys Fluttermane. This absolute majestic demon is potent in color. I want to give you guys 5 seconds to guess what color Fluttermane is given.
It's gray.
Gray, the dullest possible color, is what one of the most colorful Mon is associated with. This choice is so bad that I don't think that there is one person on the entire planet who unironically thinks Fluttermane is gray, unless they do actually suffer from some type of eye condition. But Pokemon has way more problems than just Pokédex color. But I need to remind you guys that I haven't played a main series Pokemon game in about 3 years. So basically, I don't know what I'm waffling about. Anyways, that's the end of the video. Do you agree with what I had to say, or am I myself colorblind? Comment down below if you think I missed any notable color mistakes and which one you thought was the worst. And yeah, that's about it.